Well, welcome to the masterclass. It's lovely to have you here today. My name is Keith Myers from the Myers Touch in Winchester. It's lovely to have you joining us on our whistle-stop tour through quite a comprehensive subject in like 15 to 20 minutes, which I'll tell you is nearing impossible. Subject title is Creating Beautiful Kitchens with Light, Space and Laughter. So I think firstly, a very good question perhaps you may have is, who the blinking heck are the Myers Touch? Never heard of you. Well, maybe you have, I don't know. But this is us, this is our studio here in Winchester. We actually lecture, I personally, my wife lecture, you can see all the places that we speak at a regular basis. Kitchen, Bath and Special Association, Society of British Interior Design, Grand Designs, 100% Design is part of London Design Week, KBIS is an American company, and of course, last but absolutely not least, Home Building and Renovation Show. This is the inside of our studio. We've recently won Kitchen Showroom of the Year, Kitchen Retailer of the Year and Kitchen Designer of the Year. So obviously we're delighted about that, and you know, it's working with lovely clients that gives us the opportunity to create some amazing spaces. If you know House, this is just a quick whistle-stop tour through 6 years of House Awards on design and service. We're actually a supplier of 4 different types of products. So we design and install kitchens as an interior architecture, interior design practice. This is Eggersmann, which is a high-end German company. Our own brand, which is a middle market German company. Primarily classic, contemporary, but does have some classic elements for it. Copac Life, which is an Italian company, they do design things really well sometimes, so we like to have them kind of snuck in the side. And then we have our own bespoke range where we have clients that have custom needs and what you call the traditional, more in-frame style kitchens. But as you'll see in a minute, we have kind of a broader side to our bespoke side as well. This kitchen is the one that we've just recently won Kitchen Design of the Year for. It's in Ascot, which is actually quite close to here if you're not local to the area. And this one here was a beautiful project we did in a stately home in Fordingbridge, which was a real challenge actually. It's really fun to work with historic architecture alongside a contemporary building and actually working with a client that really wanted to do a fantastic job. So that's enough about us, because that's just kind of gives you a broad brush approach to us. So light, space and laughter, then what is that all about and what am I talking about today? Is it the technical aspects of square meterage? Is it the aspects of lux levels and lights? Or is it about the emotionality of design? Have a look at this and tell me what you think.
En dan komen we hier bij de slaapkamer met
Okay, so it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, isn't it, really? But it is fun, and it does express really what we're talking about with design. Design has the ability to impact the way we live, and it's a really interesting process because it started me. I don't know if any of you recognise this. It's an architectural drawing from a Scottish architect, and it's when I first bumped into this architect, it kind of started me on a journey that I didn't expect. And the architect, to keep you access, is Charles Rennie Mackintosh. Very well known now, but in his day he was quite disregarded and not really viewed as maybe the prominence he has now, because he was leading a thinking that probably you could define as prophetic in the architectural world, in the sense he was a forward thinker and he was challenging a lot of the status quos in that time. I walked into one of his rooms that he designed, and I suddenly went in there and I went, oh my word, there's something in this space that kind of touched me here. And I'm thinking, hang on, this is a building, this is not anything else, what's going on? And it started me on a journey of trying to discover what that feeling was that he managed to create for me in one of his spaces. And maybe you can experience that. Most of us know when we go into a space, so, do you know, there's a funny feeling in here? I can't describe it. Sometimes you walk into a space and someone's been arguing before and it kind of leaves an atmosphere, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Design creates atmospheres, both good and not so good. So I want to take you through a very quick process. I'm going to go into a few, just a kind of some quick case studies at the end to give you an idea of the type of experiences we'll go through with clients. It's what I call the 4 levels of design. Now, most clients start what I call product design. Now, if you look around here, this is a product show. There is some lovely kitchen companies all over the place. There's lovely oak frame over there. All products, wood, brick, glass, steel. It's all about products. And a lot of people basically will always start at this level, but I don't think it's the right place to start when you're trying to designing that special space for yourself in the heart of your home. The next level I call lifestyle. This is a word you've probably seen. You even get kitchen companies sometimes call themselves lifestyle kitchens. It's when you're taking those products and you're adapting them into your specific needs. And that is layout, colour, materials, interaction through the things, breakfast bars, stalls, the way the whole thing starts to react as a space. And this is often where designers stop, or kitchen planners as I call them, not designers really, because that's another story. If you go on our website, there's a YouTube talk called Do Designers Play It Safe? And I did that for Grand Designs this year up in Birmingham, and that will talk to you about what I mean, the difference between a kitchen planner and a kitchen designer. Not for today's talk. But this is where I think most people stop, but I think there's 2 levels above that that really begin to impact your space and the outcome that you get. The first one is what I call community. Community is now what you're not just creating a space for you and your family, you're doing something that reaches outside of your space, and it happens in 2 ways. One is it reaches out into the outside, into the environment, into the aspects of things like biophilia, and that's aspects of design and how we work with the natural world and how that comes in to our space. That's often seen by people just simple ways, just putting glazing up so they can connect with their garden. That's part of bringing the outdoors in, but there's a lot more to it than that. But it's also about how open you want your home to be. And considering we've probably been doing this talk now for maybe 8-10 years, COVID was a massive change in the way we lived our lives and how we realised how different it is. And some people want to be much more open in bringing people into their home and expanding their lifestyle outside the 4 walls of their home. It has a big impact on how we design spaces and how we want them to work. But I think there's a much more important level about that, and what I call that is transcendence. And that's the feeling that design has. And I touched on that just a little bit earlier. So a very great example, our studio's in Winchester, and if you know, Winchester has a massive big cathedral. It's where Netflix filmed Lady Diana's wedding to Prince Charles when they did The Crown. But you go into that and it's just this incredible building. You walk into there is a sense in that space of awe, wonder, spirituality, depends on where you're at. But actually, that at a base level, at a product level, it's brick, stone, wood, glass. That's all it is. So when you're designing at a product level, it's a very uninspiring place to start a project. You start at the transcendent space. Transcendence also exists in landscape. You go out into a beautiful woods, into water spaces. We know what that feels like when we connect with that other something that does it. Also exists in poetry and music. Music, for example, at a product level is E, F. There's no G, is there, in music? So if you have musical I am F sharp. There is a G. Oh, there you go. Oh, there is a G. Yeah, right. I used to play the guitar a few years ago and haven't played it for a long time. But that's what it is. So you're expanding. But music can actually move you to fear, or it can move you to tears, or it can move you to romanticism. It's really interesting, the power, and that's what I'm talking about, the power of design to move something in here and create a great space. So I popped into the design museum, as I have to as a designer every now and then, to kind of look around and see what's happening. And this quote was here, which I really love. Many people share the belief that there is a moral or an ethical component to design, and that design can be responsible for enriching our lives. And this is now what we're doing is, people say, what job do you say? Well, we don't really design kitchens. We create spaces that enrich people's lives. And that's actually what it is. There is a fundamental delivery that has to happen, but actually that's what we're doing. Sometimes I kind of say to people, I tease them and say, well, actually we save marriages because we kind of mess around that. Can I design a kitchen that can save a marriage? Well, I can create a kitchen that can actually create communication, that can help people to connect or create family, but I'm not sure if I can quite go that far. In case you've got any problems like that, to go see someone else. But it's a bit of fun. This is an interesting project because this was a brief that we worked with an architect on. It won the British Home Awards a few years ago, and the brief to the client was, I want you to create a home of peace for us. Well, that's a transcendent brief, and that's a really, really unusual brief from a client, because you don't think about that when necessarily you're kind of thinking, well, I need 4 bedrooms, I need this much square meterage, I want this kind of a bathroom and a study, and I want this here. And that's a product brief, it's not a transcendent brief. And the reason why is they'd had a very tragic situation in their family and they just couldn't stay in the same house, and they wanted to create somewhere very new. So this was the kitchen that was designed in line with the architectural premise. But if you look in the centre, the way to describe this is it's like 4 shoe boxes connected with this atrium in the centre. It's an upside down house. So we're actually upstairs here. And this little courtyard has an olive tree, as you can see that there, which, if you don't know, it's a symbol of peace. And you can see that from every living space upstairs. You can always centre it around that place of peace. Now, for you architecturally, it might not be your style, but that's okay. But it was theirs, and they absolutely loved it. So that's really interesting, but how does that relate to my project, and what do I need to do if I like what you're talking about? Well, this is because we recommend that you don't start at the bottom when you come to doing your project, you start at the top. So the first question we ask you when you're talking about design is nothing to do with what products you want. It's about how do you want to feel in the space? And sometimes just that question can blow people away because they haven't even thought about it. When you walk into that space, what is it that you want? You know, because it's a really, really important place. We talk about this phrase, which I think is overused, that nobody quite knows what it means, which is the kitchen is the heart of the home. Actually, we kind of flip it over and say the kitchen is the heart of the heart of the home is the kitchen. And it's kind of flipping it around and saying, actually, there's something about that space. Can we create an intuitive space that draws people together within that? If you are just working within the confines of your own home, then within your own family, within the own context of your own relationships. But can we extend that out into the community where we draw people in there for something different, for something special? Very, very personal. And actually this could be quite challenging for someone once. I had a 2-hour design consultation and we spent literally probably an hour and 15 minutes just on this one subject, trying to talk about what they wanted it to feel like. It's a really fun place to work, but it's quite challenging to think in that place. So we call that the emotional and the spiritual, non-religious spiritual, that sense of the other aspect of design. The next thing is we say, well, who do you want to impact? And that's all about the outreach. And it reaches out, like I said, into community, into people, how far you want to go out. We had a couple once and they had I think it was every Wednesday or something, they had a group of about 20 to 30 people from their local church group, and they catered for that number of people every day, so every single week. So we had to adapt for their 6 people in their family, and then for 20 to 30 people, eating, living, cooking environment, without it feeling like you're living in a catering kitchen. So that was a fun job, but that was about the whole aspect of reaching out in the social way into your people world, but into the environment, about bringing organic materials into your space and connecting with the outdoors in a quite exciting way. Then we come back down to, well, how do you want to live? Now this is becoming more of a practical question. This is much more about ovens and materials and the interactions that are taking place, things like bar stools and ducting and questions that start to exist on that. And it touches what I call the practical side of how your kitchen works and the relational side of how it works with you as a family. I think one of the things that, as our kids were growing up and trying to get to do their homework and things, I don't know if you've ever done this as parents, we went and bought them these kind of beds that have the top sleeper bunks and a little desk for them to do all their homework on, and little beds, so if they have a friend staying for sleepover, they can have that. They use a sleepover bed, but they never ever use the office desk. I found one of them up the stairs one day doing his homework on the stairs. So the thing about this is that places need to be created so they instinctively draw people to it without knowing. And that's the identity that space has and the power it has to create some exciting spaces. And the very bottom level, it's not bottom, it's the last level to look at, is the quality. And the quality touches two aspects. One is materials. Obviously, particularly in kitchens, the investment you want to make is directly related to the quality of materials that you use. And there's pros and cons of all different options, but also how it's delivered professionally. And one of the things that we say, which is the laughter aspect, is to be laughing with a client at the end of a job is a really successful outcome, because construction is really difficult and it's really challenging, and I've seen so many clients fall out with builders in the process. So for the smart ones around you, when you look at that process there, we actually then embed that into the much more common known called wellness in our space. And wellness covers, well, great kitchen products within the kitchen. That can be growing your own food in a fridge that is designed to grow lovely plants. It could be connecting with the relationships and the people around you, which creates that emotional support and the whole psychology of family and relational life. It could be the outreach outdoors into open spaces and outreach into your community around you. And it could be touching the spiritual and the emotional aspects of design. So what we're fundamentally doing is designing wellness into your home. So this is not a wellness place, this is actually a cancer hospice, if you know it, the Maggis Centre. And this is the power that architecture has. Trudy, who I'm assuming has been up for quite a while now, may not be with us anymore, but she said, I felt the building enveloped me in love. It's bright, it's light, and the first thing you do is smile. Now for architecture to achieve that in a hospice is a phenomenal design to be able to create that in such a sad space. This is how we get projects, trying to see through some of these things. This is the design brief that we had for this project. The client had that view from his penthouse apartment, and he was a very nautical man, and he said, I want you to build me a boat in your kitchen. And so, well, how do you want that to be? How do you want that to feel? We went through this lovely process and we created a boat-shaped kitchen, very unique and very personal. This is his second home. We actually went on to do his first home that he built new a few years later. This is interesting. I put this up because this is our most saved picture on House, which just shows you how simplicity of design and the whole aspects of how it works is just so different. This, we love this. This one, this was up for Grand Design's House of the Year a few years ago. And the reason I put this in is the connectivity to the outdoor, which actually overlooked the orchard for the client, and how they did this. This was actually on TV, which was a great project to do. This is interesting. I'm running out of time here really because to kind of explain too much, but this is interesting how, because what we have here is connected with two materials, which is what I call transitional design, which is you're linking shaker and contemporary together and fusing it, and that fusion of design creates it incredibly personal and a really exciting space for clients to enjoy and to be embedded in. This was a project we did in Ascot, and this again is another fusing kitchen where we put contemporary together with classic elements. You can't quite see it there, but there is a shaker style door. Because it's such a light colour, it's kind of washed out a little bit in the colour. We won a global award for that particular kitchen. Another one, the connectivity to the outdoors. We didn't design the island, just in case you're interested. Not that we couldn't do it, but we had that design many years ago, costing £250,000 to have that island done. We just did the back bit and did some kind of other features for him. But even on that side here, where the stainless steel wrap is 2mm off that glass the whole way round, and we did that all off template. My fitter said to me, don't ever sell that again. Well, we have, of course, because it was fun and it was giving a strong connectivity to the outside, because he was a gardener. He was one of the top gardeners in the UK, doing some amazing projects. So, light, space and laughter in summary. This is it really. This is what I've described to you, the aspects of experiencing transcendence right at the very top of the process is what you're wanting to create when you invest in a kitchen project. Embracing community, reaching outside to people and into the spaces, enriching the lifestyle that you have, and finally exhibiting excellence. I'll leave it there so you can get your photo. So it's really not about products at the end of the day, although they are important, and fundamentally invest the best you can to get the best quality you can, because quality does last, and I can tell you that for being in the kitchen industry a long time. Designing for a transcendent vision for your space, and one that facilitates human connection and relationship, that will add a greater dimension, particularly as I was saying earlier, with the importance now that COVID has created in our living spaces, and they're not kitchens anymore, because they're only used for kitchens for a very short amount of time in 24 hours. So they have a much more elevated responsibility for your home. The best design actually comes from connecting with your designer. Now, we're nice people at the Myers Touch, hopefully, but we don't get on with everybody, and we're right for some people, but we're not right for others, and that's okay, you know. But if you like us, then work with us. We'd love to help you. And the other aspect is, great design is actually ultimately about a great feeling. And design is simple when it's practicality only, or it's aesthetics only. Design is really difficult when it's both together, and both of them to be excellent. That's why you can design a kitchen very practically and come in and it just doesn't look great, or you design it so it looks fantastic but everything's not where it needs to be, and you're running around the kitchen all the time trying to, most importantly though, have fun in the process.